everyone. Welcome to the American Scouser podcast. Monday night, we are back in action. I am your host, as always, Timucin here in Chicago, where the weather is not too. It snowed a little bit last night on the way home, but we did our festivities. We'll probably talk about that a little bit because I got to share some highlights. But we did our festivities for Layla's birthday yesterday. I was whining and worried about it, you guys know. And actually, it was like nice. Like it was a nice, but it's nice for freaking like end of December. It was like 50 degrees, 40 degrees in downtown Chicago, which is like, felt like an October night, really, more than like end of December. So it was all nice and dandy. Christmas out of the way. And all three of us are back in action. Bickler looks even more festive than normal. What's happening?
I'm not. I'm doing the galley thing where I got sick last night too, so I'm fighting off this flu that the kids have been kicking around. But like it's it's as big as part of the holidays as Christmas morning itself. Like I feel like along with the rest of the Christmas shopping list and stuff, it's always like Theraflu and like Dayquil and all that's like on the list just because I know it's coming down the pipes. But yeah, high of 71 today here, and it's going to be a high of 44 tomorrow. So awesome.
I think that's a joy of kind of like having kids. They just bring the germs over. I was like saying like the moments that, we became empty nesters, I'm probably jinxing it right now again too. But I was telling Angie, I'm like, dude, I did not get sick entire freaking winter somehow because there's nobody carrying germs constantly from outside in. But I don't know how he's getting and who he's getting his germs from. But Gally's here healing.
I get them all over the place, man. That's the thing. I'm a germ magnet. No, it was a good holiday. Went and visited the in-laws with Kelly. We were out in Western New York Wednesday through she's still there. She's there through New Year's Eve because it's always nice to work in higher ed and they give you 2 straight weeks off without having to use any time and pay you the whole fucking time, those fucking heathens. But yeah, so if you send your kid to Mount Holyoke College, well, know that you're paying for my wife to get ridiculous amount of extra time off. But no, we went to New York. It was really nice. I got up early Saturday morning because I wanted to make it home for the Liverpool Wolves match at 10 a.m., which meant I had to leave by 5 a.m. The thing told me it was like snowing overnight in New York, and it told me, don't get on the highway because there's an accident. So I thought my GPS was just sending me like an exit or two up the highway to avoid it. No. Pitch dark, 5 a.m., snowing, right? This thing sent me an hour and a half back roads. I got on the New York freeway in Syracuse. I've never been so uncomfortable the entire time because I was like, I do not know these roads. I can barely see. Like, it was one of those mornings where like I was afraid I was going to run out of windshield washer fluid because there was so much salt on the roads. It was just caking my windshield the whole time. And I'm just driving white knuckle. Like eventually I'll know where we are. And then literally when I got on the New York freeway, I was like, wait, I'm a quarter of a mile from Syracuse. That's like halfway home. How the bleep did this happen? So it was a little nerve wracking, a little scary, but I got through and I got home with 2.5 minutes before the match started. So it all worked out.
Could be worse. I remember when we were going to before New York, we were going to Niagara Falls and it was sending us into Canada and neither one of us had passports. So I was like, wait, what? So we had to come back down a couple of hours. I remember that. Good times. But couldn't swim across the lake. So I had to come all the way down to go around it again. But yeah. Okay. So I'm going to ask you guys this. So I was asking Mateusz too, and it's a little pet peeve of mine. And then today, actually during the day, Ryan, who you guys know, he was at the American Scouser Petting Zoo last year. One of our like loyal listeners, Ryan Thompson, messaged me midday and he was like, dude, I am with you on this one. So I'm going to ask you guys this because I was told I'm semi-scarred from VAR. But to make a long story short, we were out. Layla has become like a huge sports fan suddenly, wanted to watch the Blackhawks game. So we're at the bar. So we're watching the Bears 49ers at the same time. Obviously, I'm a 49ers fan in Chicago with a bunch of Bears fans watching. Let me ask you guys this, because I was like, how can an adult male celebrate? There was like an interception in the end zone where there was a flag next to the guy's foot and it said flag on the screen. And there was like a couple of tables celebrating. I was like, how are you guys celebrating like that? Is it like, am I that much of a pessimist that if I see that, I'm like, it's probably a defensive penalty. This is not an interception and stuff. So let me ask you guys this: has it been? Is it like an age thing that as you get older, you kind of look at some of these things more pessimistic? Like if you have a huge run in football, I know this is mostly football, but it's like with VAR now, it's the same way. If something is close, we talked about this before. I mean, even Stitch and Leo are like waiting for the VAR to okay it before we get snagged. Bickler, I'll ask you because you're probably a bit more pessimistic than the average human. But
that doesn't sound like me.
Yeah, do you like? I don't know. I find myself waiting before I celebrate. That's like a flag in the NFL, offside, and like like when you watch the Premier League, Liverpool and stuff like that. Or am I just? I was told Angel was like, "Oh, you just scarred from VAR," but I think I've always been like this.
I mean, I think I kind of halfway made the joke in Discord last week that like the NFL has essentially has become like professional wrestling. Now that there's legalized betting, I feel like there's all these weird things that are like happening in games that shouldn't happen in games. I don't celebrate anything until like I know for sure like we're cutting a commercial. Not only because I think that like things are scripted now, and I'm a like conspiracy theorist, but also because I grew up watching the Lions, where our best players retire in the prime of their careers because they just want to retire so badly. And we have the most penalized team in the league for like 15 years straight. Yes, I think I'm conditioned to like hold off on that. I don't know if that's an age thing or just somebody who's been through a lot of disappointment. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Shelton says we're all pessimistic old men. So yeah, but I mean, that's why I was asking earlier today. I was asking like Matush and stuff. He's as young as this channel pretty much gets with John over here. But how about you, Gally? Like you say, it doesn't matter the sport. It can be football, it can be soccer. Heck, now with NBA, like whatever I watch, until it's official, I'm finding it very, very hard to celebrate. Even in freaking NBA now, they come back like 30 seconds later and be like, "Oh yeah, by the way, that wasn't a 3-pointer. His foot was on the line, so we're taking it off the board and stuff." I'm like, "Wait, what? Like, we can't even celebrate there now." They come back 35 seconds later and be like, "Oh yeah, by the way, that basket a couple of minutes ago, that's a no bueno. He was like, his foot was on the line and stuff." So every freaking sport, I'm the same way. Sound is better. It's really quiet though. We can't hear you at all.
Yeah.
That's probably why it didn't sound so good. God damn fucking. That's what happens when you're colorblind. You can't tell red from green, so you can't tell when you're on mute. No, I was watching a Celtics game last night, actually, in between, right before the 49ers game started. And I'm watching the game, and it was back and forth. And they've been playing well, but they were playing poorly in the fourth quarter against Portland. And it was exactly what you're talking about, Tim. Jaylen Brown goes to the hoop, gets absolutely what looks like he's clobbered and won. They're about to tie the game and go up by 1. And then somehow they decide they're going to take a look at what was a defensive foul. And they found a way to come back and call it a flagrant 1 on Jaylen Brown. On the court, they called it a foul on the defender. Then they came back and were like, yeah, no, that's a flagrant 1. He leans in with his elbow and catches a chin. And like, you could have called it either way, but once you make a call, how do you reverse it? So it was basically like a 7-point swing. Instead of getting 2 and a free throw, right, and making it a 1-point game, they basically take the points off the board. They give the other team a 2 and the ball, and then they hit a 3. And I'm like, I don't even know what just happened. I was mystified. Like, I've been watching NBA basketball all my life. I've seen a shit ton of bad calls. You know why? It's NBA basketball. They literally had a thing where the referees were colluding with the mob to throw basketball games. And you know what was crazy? One of those sons of bitches was the head official last night in the Celtics game, which makes me question a lot of things about sports. But nothing more is questioned about sport than bad officiating. Because to me, it's the one thing that bridges all sports at this point, is that instant replay and VAR and reviews have made all officiating worse. And I'm going to stand behind that until the end of time. I've been saying it about the NFL. I say it all the time when we talk about the Premier League. VAR did nothing but make it easier to be an on-field official because you don't have to make the critical decisions in real time because there's a camera that allows you to bail you out. And it's so bad. It's almost worse in the VAR world of the Premier League than it is in even other sports, because in the VAR world, they use it to support each other. and bail each other out at the same time, which just basically there is no one like being like, yeah, we got to take care of that line judge for this bad call in the NFL. Like, it's just they either make bad calls or they don't. But officiating in 2025 going into 2026 is poor in every single sport.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I say, I do agree that this whole replay thing has definitely made the experience a lot different. The weird thing is, like, the newer generation probably doesn't know the opposites over here. But I think, having lived both of them, it's just not the same anymore in terms of like the joy of like live watching and stuff like that, because I'm looking for like a bunch of other things at the same time. But yeah, it was like a weird thing last night. I was like, how does a grown man like that can celebrate when there's a flag on the ground? And then it was like a whole conversation over there. But at the end of the day, Bears lost. But it's Monday, so I think we're safe. I think that game is over. They're not going to come back and reverse any calls. Liverpool gets another win. Not the prettiest. Many reasons behind that. We might get to some of those. Bickler, where are you at overall? I mean, are you in the camp that, hey, 3 points is 3 points, keep moving? Or because we don't see as much of an improvement in the play, there is kind of like a frustration?
Both. I mean, I think we gotta accumulate points, right? If you're gonna try to stay in the mix here and swipe a top 4 spot, which I think is, the main goal here is that we can just sneak in and get Champions League qualification here and figure this out over time. I think my concern is it's very, very hard to judge this side right now just because of the lack of depth. So it's very hard to know what this manager would be doing with the full squad because he doesn't have one, right? I think the second part that is frustrating about this is when you're looking at the pieces and a manager can't consistently put out his first starting 11 when you're running into suspensions and injuries at the rate he's doing right now. I think my concern is like, that's the excusable part, right? You can excuse that, but I have real concerns about this side in terms of things that you can't control that don't have to do with your roster, like your mentality and like your ability to stop conceding set pieces, right? Like those things are things that you can do that don't have anything to do with who's available on your starting 11. Like I worry about the fact that we don't seem to have an emphasis on winning the second ball. I worry about the fact that we're a team that concedes corners at like a mid-table rate in terms of like all the teams. We're kind of right in the middle, but we're highest with 12 conceded. And it's not happening on the primary ball coming in. It's on the ball going out, the second ball. And so like those types of things, I have a real concern that this is a side and this is a system that is designed to play from the front foot in winning games and that it doesn't look any better in the second half when it's winning. Like those are my primary concerns, like a big time mentality things.
I mean, Wild Spade, welcome aboard, by the way, says he's slot in because Klopp ain't coming back because he was asking for a slot out. I think in some ways, I feel like the recent results, I mean, what is it, 7 games now? And I think we won 5 or something like that. Whatever it is, the record is obviously, the trajectory is like up again. And you can argue that the opposition is a lot worse, which is fine and dandy. I was saying it this morning that I think even if we beat Leeds and Fulham, I don't think anybody's going to be convinced until you go against Arsenal or somebody like that and put out like a solid performance for people to say, this team is back. But at the same time, Gally, I know what Bickler's saying, and I think this was kind of like an unfair assessment this week because you could visually see tired legs. It wasn't even assuming, you could visually see tired legs, and there was nobody to come off the bench with the limited squad and stuff. But overall, I feel like I see a lot more positives than negatives, especially maybe the bar is low, but compared to, I don't know, a month and a half ago? Not that far ago.
I couldn't agree with you more about that. And I think the last month, give or take, right, in December, we drew the matches against Leeds and Sunderland. We would have liked to at least gotten at least one result in that. In the Sunderland match, we start slow. And of course, the Leeds match, we just end terribly. I think this comes down to fitness. I think this team is absolutely knackered on 60 minutes. I mean, the fact that they pushed Frimpong to play 90 when the week before Sports Science said he could only give you 30 and he actually gives you the 90, I think is really, really impressive and important. I think you saw I'm sure we'll get to Chiesa at some point during this hour. I think you saw a lot of why people clamored for him to get minutes and also why the manager doesn't want to give him starts. Makes a lot more sense to bring him on against tired legs and see where it goes from there. When you have this depth that we have and you're bringing in youth players and playing in players out of position, and then you go down a man like Szoboszlai, I really think that's a difficult position to put anyone in. I understand where Paul's coming from with regards to the set pieces, but they are defending the set pieces very similar to last year. The difference is Gravenberch and Konate have been absolute liabilities, and they're your like 2A and 2B. And let's be real, every year, Ali gets less and less commanding in his box when it comes to balls coming in. So basically, if a ball avoids Van Dijk, we're in trouble. And nobody talks about this, but like one thing Bobby was so good at was being the first defender on the front post. And Darwin was really, really good at it as well and never got any credit. Like we'd always joke Darwin couldn't get himself on the head. He couldn't get on the head of a corner if it was thrown in our box, but goddamn, he could clear a ball like nobody's business. And I think we missed that, let alone the fact that you're throwing out guys like Kirkhez, Frimpong, and McAllister's the guy blocking everyone off. I think it's 16 goals conceded, 11 of which McAllister's been on the pitch.
You know what you also don't do? You also don't put him on the 6'6" Nigerian guy. Just 100%. Just gonna go out there and say that.
We do it, but I mean, I don't know what is the thinking of that. We're gonna have to get a set piece coach on air over here to tell us why the hell, because every team does it. Like if you saw them, they had Andre on Van Dijk, and I was like, why is everybody doing this? Somebody come and explain me the logic, because why would I know it's like a zone, it's not man or whatever, but if you're trying to slow the dude down, why put a guy? It's like putting me in front of Van Dijk. He's just gonna run me over and then just get to where he wants anyway.
Yeah, I don't know what the logic is, other than that you're thinking that the shorter guy can make it more difficult for the guy to get leverage and jump. Like if you're just like in his
trip over
like,
him,
if you're just at his legs, but like just put a Yorkshire Terrier out there. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it.
Yeah, it is very frustrating because it's constant. Angel's asking, I'm like, I don't know. They constantly do this, and every other team does it too. I noticed the last game we were playing, they had two guys in front of Van Dijk trying to like drop him, but they were still the smallest guys. Honestly, with these set pieces, I do feel that we are pretty small in size. I mean, you guys are counting people like Bobby and like Nunez and stuff. It just feels like size-wise, we're like a lot lower. Like a lot lower, like a lot smaller in size when those balls are coming in. And obviously they're sending their center backs and stuff in, but this is the recipe right now. Like this is the recipe to beat Liverpool on set pieces, get set pieces. My biggest frustration is when we started the game and every goddamn team has a guy who can like do a throw in like 8 miles away. Why we clear? There's like they started the game one throw in, it goes to the other side. Kirk is like unnecessarily panics. If you're gonna kick it away, at least kick it away towards the front. He kicks it away to another throw in. So some of them like we are they're like self-inflicting like set pieces we give away, which is really frustrating. But McAllister, Wild Spaces is an off season. I'm sure his next season will be amazing. I honestly think, I mean, I don't know what you guys, when you guys look at this game, Gally, overall performances, I did not see, we'll talk about like a couple of maybe subpar or ones that are like really controversial, like everybody's like taking a side, like Chiesa is one of them and stuff. But I did not see a lot of like poor performances throughout. There was like a fragile moment right after the goal for 5 minutes. My biggest concern in this game was the second half. We came out, and I'll be honest, I sat back on the couch in the same mode, but I can afford to. I'm sitting on my fat ass watching the game. The team can't afford to. They came out like they're just going to walk through we just got to walk around for another 45 minutes, take the 3 points and leave. And you knew Wolves were going to change their game plan because it wasn't 1-0 and they were like, oh, maybe we'll get a set piece and tie it. It was 2-0. So you knew they had to come out. To me, that was the biggest disappointment in the game. Nothing, like I didn't look at an individual performance and was like, oh, that's disappointing.
No, I don't disagree. I think they were actually trying to kind of wade their way into the second half because they had the 2-goal lead and the mindset was, as long as we keep it compact and we stay within within ourselves, we'll be okay here. I also think they were trying to reserve legs because I think they knew there weren't a lot of options from the bench. And I do believe the manager made it clear to these guys, like, I'm going to make a couple substitutions here, but like, unless we get that third goal, and that was the most disappointing thing for me. At 2-0, you come out of the half. If you get the third goal, that's where you get to get Frimpong off on 60 and let him rest. You get to get Rio in. Maybe you bring in Neone and you drop even Curtis back, or you bring in Ramsey, right? Like, or Bradley at 45 minutes. There were movements, but it required the third goal. And unfortunately, before we could get there, we gave up the terrible goal once again, which was against the run of play. Let's not make it out like Wolves was creating great opportunities. They hit the post once. Ali makes one save, even after the match goes 2-1. And I agree with you, Tim. It was a little nervy, but I think it was nervy because I was watching it through the eyes of a supporter who has watched them concede 2-goal leads multiple times this year. If you really go back, and I went back and watched the second half today, terrible viewing, by the way, but I did go back and watch it. The truth is,
there was the commitments, but go ahead.
There was never a moment that Wolves actually looked like they were going to score the second goal. It feels like they were going to, because it's in our minds it's going to happen, but it really wasn't.
Yeah, it was more like, here we go again. And I think they had that feeling for the next 5 minutes, I think, after the goal. But after that, I didn't see it. Yeah, it wasn't like the Spurs game. I felt the Spurs game, it was a lot more likely for us to concede compared to this Wolves game over here. And I do think a lot of it in this game was just tired legs and not having anybody to go for it. I was going to ask you this, Bickler, because we were talking a little bit this morning. Because one frustration I have, especially when somebody's, a team is playing low block is, I mean, everybody knows me. I'm not one of these guys that are like sideways passes, so sick of them, blah, blah, blah. It's part of the game. You got to change wings and all that kind of stuff, right? The ball's going to come back, the ball's going to go sideways, whatever. I just feel like we do it so goddamn slow. And, it's great for possession, but it's not really challenging the defense. When you only, as a defender, if you only have to go take one step left, that's not going to create any openings, which is why you move the ball side to side. Is that just style, or was that, after I was thinking about it, is that more of us resting on the ball, knowing there are no adults on the bench to come in and play, no actual Premier League experience off the bench, so we were almost resting on the ball?
I don't think it's anything to do with rest. I think it has to do with the principles that this manager is trying to imprint on this side in possession. And I think the scary thing, the thing that worries me, is that there's only so many formations and variations with triangular passing, like pattern of play that you can put together until you start to look like Arsene Wenger's sides. And that's the concerning thing to me, where like, sometimes I feel like it's overcomplicated and not as direct in approach as it needs to be. The one goal comes from Frimpong going ahead and just taking somebody on, right? Like, and I think that if you have a team that sits back in two blocks of four, I think the easiest thing that you can do is try to do intricate passing in isolated areas of the pitch. At some point, I think the strength of this side is the building chemistry between Wirtz, Kerkez, and Jones, which is the primary way that we were attacking down the side. Ironically, the most dangerous attacks came down the right. And I think that's because the sort of, there is some really beautiful build-up play that happens on the left, but Frimpong is the one that's being direct. And he was by far the most direct player. And I don't think it's an accident that that's where the goals were coming from. So I don't know. I hope to see this thing. I hope to see a nice balance of being able to do that in possession, but understanding when there's four in the back that sometimes you have to take somebody on to stretch it.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's like part of it is like, we value possession so much, so nobody wants to roll the dice, but you have players on the pitch. I mean, it used to be just like McAllister. Now with Wirtz, you have, multiple players. I know we were missing Szoboszlai. I think that was a huge miss in a game like that.
Absolutely.
Somebody who can go in the box with a burst, not to mention somebody who can threaten with a shot to pull the defense up a bit further and stuff like that too. But Steven's asking about like the transfer window, which I do want to get to that towards the end, because I want to kind of like take a different aspect of it, because I think last week we kind of talked about predictions, what might happen and stuff. But I mean, I guess the bigger thing is, Gally, when we, at the end of the day, kind of like what Bickler is talking about, I feel like that left-hand side, Kirkus has looked a lot better, mainly because Wirtz actually takes advantage of his runs and gets him the ball, as opposed to Gakpo, who uses him as a decoy like 95% of the time and just makes like Kirkus make like useless runs, it feels like, because, you know, Gakpo is going to cut to the middle and everybody knows Gakpo is going to cut to the middle. So you have that going on the right-hand side. I think we're seeing what Frimpong can do because his pace threats really helps what we used to get from Mo in terms of like that pace threats. Now you get from Frimpong, like they're afraid he's going to cut to the line, which really opens up that corner of the box and stuff. So there are like a lot of positive signs. So why do you think the overall negativity now? Because there's still a lot of it.
Because people can't get over the fact that we conceded a goal. And when we were up 2-0, everyone envisioned a 5-0 victory and just everybody doing victory laps. But they forget that the Arsenal team, that is the quote-unquote juggernaut, took 2 own goals in stoppage time to get a result against this exact same side playing at home less than 2 weeks ago. Yep. You guys know that in every single match this weekend, every single match in the Premier League was a 1-goal match on the 70th minute. And every single game except for one eventually became level before there was a game winner. Everyone is knackered right now. And we're all honestly playing with maybe the most barren squad right now of any of the big clubs. And that's on us, by the way. That was based on our recruitment and going into the season short in midfield and in attack, and then having injuries that, you know, in suspension that coupled that. But, you know, outside of City, there isn't a side playing great. Like Chelsea had 1 shot in the first half, had 4 by the end of the match, only conceded 3 shots and lost 2-1. Like this side, I mean, did you watch on Boxing Day? Like Newcastle was terrible. And United did everything they could to give United did everything they could to give Newcastle United the chance to level that thing late. And they weren't great opportunities, but they had opportunities, because I just feel like these sides are just so worn down. The way the Premier League's playing right now, the injuries across the league, it's hitting us differently. And it's not an excuse. And I think that's what people want. People want to hear it and be like, oh, here's Liverpool supporters making excuses. It doesn't have to be excuse for it to be realistic. Like, we started guys who had less than 100 minutes in their legs over 3 months and made them play 90 minutes. Like, we're bringing on Trey Neone in back-to-back matches to close out matches, like after not getting minutes. You had Wirtz and Ekitike basically begging off the pitch. And if you get the 3rd goal, you let Chiesa play another 30 minutes. But without it, you're like, I think we've seen enough of this. Thank you very much. After 60 minutes, he's got to go. And until you can put some players in that can actually give you the 90 minutes and run the whole time and not get tired. And I think this does, we haven't touched on the whole Jota thing with how cool of a moment it was for the Wolves supporters, and good on them and Liverpool and the family. But like, some of that has to be playing its part right now in the fitness, because I've never seen a side, not new signings, not guys like Isak who went on strike. I would argue 70% of the side does not look fit enough for it to be December 27th or 26th, whenever it was they played that match. And I think that has to come back somewhat to your preseason preparation and the disruption in which that they had. And I give them credit for not making excuses about it, but I do think it's a real thing when you see it across literally 80% of the side not named Szoboszlai.
Yeah, Wild Space says I'm fine with how we're playing. We're giving the freedom and we're improving. And but Ryan says we need to improve defensively at some point. And I think that's like the biggest issue. But I feel like the defensive woes come a little bit from, especially in this game, in the second half, Bickler, I felt it was more about tired legs and you couldn't defend up top. I mean, Ekitike is barely like walking around up there. Chiesa, we see why Chiesa, which I do want to ask you about Chiesa's performance next, but I felt like it was from those tired legs. And we talked last year a lot about how this system compared to the club system enables us to like avoid injuries, right? And some of these injuries, like, Isak's injury and stuff like that, have been contact injuries. So it's not the same thing. But maybe a lot of moves, a lot of incoming players getting used to the pace and the physicality of the Premier League, like Frimpong and stuff, like in terms of muscle injuries. So we have had more injuries this year. So you're not able to rotate as much. So you end up with a bunch of guys that are just not ready to give you 90 minutes. And now you don't have a bench to kind of like relieve those legs. But the defensive woes that I think Ryan is talking about, it just felt like we had no pressure on the ball at all after like the 60th, 65th minutes. And there's no midfield or defense to blame when that happens and there's nothing being done up top.
Yeah. I mean, I think fitness plays a part. I think, do we have that many more games than Wolves? I don't know what we, at this juncture of the season, we do. Like, I think the biggest thing that bothers me is like when I see Wolves come out, do a formational change. They put their Mane essentially in as a second striker who sits between the lines and causes absolute havoc for us post second half. We never make an adjustment. Like, that doesn't have anything to do with fitness. That has to do with a manager either not seeing and recognizing the fact that we have like a pretty significant formational change that's causing problems the Wolves have made in not countering, or just not having the pieces, or having the arrogance to not address it. I don't know which one of those three it is, but I just think, to me, the changes that Wolves made that created problems never got countered in our part. And like, we can talk about fitness all day, but that at some point has to be talked about too. And I don't know, like, Slot came in and I think a lot of the things that we were big on was the fact that he did appear to be making tactical changes within matches, which we never saw under Jurgen. Jurgen was like, hey, this is what we are. Stop it. Right. And I think two problems are, like, I don't see enough in-game adjustments anymore. And B, I don't know what this team's identity is. Like, and I think that's the elephant in the room is like, what is this team set up to do? Like, and I don't know. I feel like I need more clarity on that. I think, and I don't think I'm alone. I think when I look at the side and all these big players, like, we don't seem to have an identifiable brand of football right now.
I wouldn't disagree with that, but I think we've started to see it. I think over the last 3 matches you've seen the identity is we are going to go as far as Florian Wirtz takes us. And I think they are trying to play the ball to him, which is why I think Jones being on the pitch is so important. You talked earlier about the little triangles, Paul, that they're creating with Kirkez. It's not just that. I made a comment earlier, maybe late November, when I was clamoring for Jones to get starts, that he felt like he was the only person who brought the best out of Wirtz on the pitch at the time. I mean, let's be real. The pass that Wirtz plays into Ekitike is what you signed Florian Wirtz for in the first half, where he plays that ball into him and then Ekitike almost gets onto it and chips the keeper and he hits the post. For me, I think we're being a little too over the top with the in-match transitions and changes, because I still don't think he's been given the ability to put out the best lineup yet that he has. I thought you saw yesterday, and I know you want to talk Chiesa, but we can get there. I thought you saw yesterday or on Saturday in many ways why Frimpong and Mo might work together, because though it was a 4-3-3 with him playing wide, Chiesa was naturally taking up that space on the inside, going more narrow on the right, allowing Frimpong this space on the right-hand side. And the difference is I do think if a few of those balls that Frimpong played at times drop to Mo Salah, there's a much better chance a goal is coming than if they drop to Federico Chiesa. Sorry to stop the presses with breaking news. I actually think what we saw yesterday was the path forward for how you get the best out of Mo Salah in this current setup, playing with Ekitike and Wirtz still floating. The guy who might be the one who falls or takes it the hardest is probably Gakpo, because I think it's kind of clear to me now that when we have our full fit best 11, Mo's going to be on the right, Ekitike is going to be through the middle, and Wirtz is going to be playing somewhere in that floating space on the left, because you have to play Jones, Szoboszlai, and Gravenberch, in my opinion, in the midfield. And McAllister is just going to have to earn his way back into this setup. I don't think it'll be the 4 or 5 man midfield when Mo gets back. I genuinely think Mo will walk back into the starting lineup. And I almost feel like they're going to use this period to try to test that out with a combination of Frimpong up top, Bradley at the back, and of course, Ekatike and these guys rotating through. I think that we are taking big strides forward, but we still need some reinforcements if we're going to be able to do it and compete on 2 to 3 fronts. And I think that's really what the issue is the sheer amount of volume of matches.
What did you think of Chiesa, Bickler?
I felt like he looked like a player that was trying to play an entire year's worth of football in 90 minutes. So, I mean, that's never great. And there's part of me that really identifies with that, because I've been in positions when you're trying to play your way into a starting 11 and you tend to do that, right? You tend to try to do everything. I don't think it was his best performance by any means. I think in some ways that's the beauty of having Chiesa come off the bench for 15 minutes is you allow him to come in and just create chaos. Where you don't want that is when you have him starting out wide right for the match in 90 minutes. But I thought he was pretty good. I thought he gave it away too many times, but I thought, he looked like a player. And I've always said this about Chiesa. The thing about Chiesa is he's technically one of the best players from a technical standpoint. Where he is struggling right now, I think he makes good decisions. Where he's struggling right now is his first touch is god awful.
Yeah,
it's god awful, and that's what happens when you have a player that's just training and not really at match fitness and playing at game speed all the time. And so, I still think Chiesa can come good. I still am big on him. I still think he needs more minutes. I think there needs to be more. Like, we talk about how this team is so thin, but I think that this manager needs to start trusting the pieces more. The pieces behind it. There's no reason, in my opinion, that Rio shouldn't be getting more minutes. There's no minutes to me that like Chiesa shouldn't be getting more minutes. Like, I think that we can't talk about these injuries and how thin the squad is, but then not use what's left of it.
I mean, let me answer that since you said that. I mean, Rio, for example, I could have seen him maybe coming in the last 5-10 minutes when, Ekitike had to be like, pushed around the pitch because he was like dying. But I mean, the problem has been we have never been, going back to what Gally was talking about earlier, if we take the third goal and you have that comfortable leads, then you can do those things, I think. But you've never been in that situation, it feels like, where you're like, okay, game is done and dusted with like 25 minutes to go. Let's bring these guys in and get the minutes. I mean, I think when you look at Chiesa, you kind of see, like, everybody was like, oh, he should be starting. This is exactly like why he should not, I don't think, be starting, because I don't think it was a good performance. It was an average. It wasn't poor. But I think he's trying to, what makes him look good is he can come in for those 15-20 minutes and give you that energy. Like, you would have loved to, I think Sergi was saying it earlier in the comments, like the end of the game, you were like, Chiesa should come in right now and run around on pressure. But he was not, he was already on the pitch. So there was nobody to come in and do what he normally does, but he cannot sustain that for the entire match. He cannot play like that the entire match. And when he's not doing that, he's not really that great right now in terms of ability and what he brings, because he can't have that entire energy for like a full 45 minutes in the first half.
Yeah,
you about to say something, Bickler. What was it? What were you?
Oh, I was just going to say, one thing I think he did do well, like, aside from the things where, like, I thought he turned the ball over a lot just because, like I said, his first touch was so poor and made a chance. Not only did I think he made good decisions, I thought he was actually one of the few players that really prioritized a good job of winning the ball back in the final third when they lost possession. So I'll give him that. Yeah, but it was far from his best for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and more minutes. I mean, I guess, when we posted on social media, like, the commentary was all over the place for people saying that he should be playing more to get to that match fitness. But we don't say that for a lot of players. Like, like, I know he's a fan favorite right now and everybody wants him to get more opportunities because he's a very likable guy and easy to root for and he brings that energy. But I just think, when you watch him, like, I did not see moments where I was like, yes, this guy should be getting regular starts. I think his strength right now is to be able to be that spark coming off the bench. And if you're able to freaking close out games early, then you can bring him in and get him some minutes, get him more match fitness and stuff. It's just, I just don't know. I mean, he seems like he's semi-happy with that role overall, and he would like to get more minutes. But which brings me to the transfer thing. Here's what I wanted to ask you guys on the transfer thing. We kind of like talked last week in terms of, our gut feeling and all that kind of stuff. Let me ask you this. I'll start with you, Bickler. Do you think where we are now and the current run almost makes it less likely that we will make more moves? or does it make more likely? You know what I'm saying? Like if we were like 6th, 7th, and the Champions League looked like it was a lot, or you're like 3-4 points from like the Champions League spot, do you think it would be more likely for us to be an FSG to be like, hey, we got to put the money in because we got to get up there? And just because where we are right now and you have some people coming back, would it be more about, hey, we're doing fine?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think the position at the table makes anything more urgent than would have been anyway, because I think it was already seeded that going to this year, that would be a transition year. Like we expected it last year. We won a title. This side oversaw a huge overchange in the summer, big money signings going out, a lot of pieces going out, in big money coming in. And I think that this season was always going to be that transition year that we thought last year was going to be. I think that like this has more to do with what's the current side need in terms of it's still organically evolving into the next iteration of its starting 11. And what does that really need? And what does it involve? And for me, it's really hard to answer that going into the transfer window because I don't know what the long-term plan is for Florian Wirtz. To me, the side looks like it still needs a traditional direct left-sided attacking player. But if Wirtz is going to be on the left, which was where I think I said it going into the season and got absolutely hammered. I'm like, I think Wirtz is going to play on the left, and people hammered me like, no, he's going to be a free roam 10. And it's like, well, we put him on the left and we've given him all the license of a free roam 10, right? And just had Kirk as essentially take that position.
Yeah.
So like, is that a sustainable long-term answer to this side? If it is, I think that changes the answer to what you do in the transfer window. So like, it's just hard for me to answer based on that, but I think the position on the table doesn't matter. What the long-term vision for this side is. And I think this is an ownership that still believes in Arnslot. Like, I think that answer has to do with what the long-term vision is. What we do in the market is like sort of dependent on that.
Ryan says the thing about Chiesa is he's trying to play his way into World Cup games. I just feel like if that was his really big ambition, he would go to camp for Italy and try to like kind of prove.
Yeah, he turned down. He turned down
to go there, which I think is in some ways shows that he knows that his fitness right now is more important than just getting playing minutes. So I kind of like respect that. But I think, you know, he feels if fit Chiesa gets called to the World Cup either way. I do want to get to the Leeds game. So real quick, Gally, I'll ask you the same question.
Yeah.
In terms of, will it alter their plans? Because I agree with Bickler. I'm sure they had a plan in terms of, but will it rush the plans, slow down the plans based on the recent run? Real quick, though, because I do want to get to the Leeds game real quick.
I don't believe it will. I actually think part of the reason why you've seen them kind of quietly, I don't want to say sour, but slow down on the Semenyo is that they had a feeling that he might want to go to City. City's in better form. They're going to offer higher wages. We all know that. And I do believe the reports that there are bigger left-wing options at play that they envisioned in the summer. And in some ways, Semenyo would be more of a short-term fix and not a Diaz, a window early style, or Gakpo, a window earlier than they planned to sign him originally.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like both players they planned to sign in the summer, but then they thought Gakpo might go to United and Diaz might go to Spurs. So we will expedite this and make this move right now. I really think there is something to the Bradley Barcola stuff. I think they really do like the player. I don't think there's that type of smoke. And I think they think there's a chance they could get the player. And I think they see him as a much higher upside than Semenyo. I think he's 4 years younger than Semenyo.
Speaking of rumors, by the way, I saw a wet rumor about Kenan Yıldız.
Yıldız is another one. And Diamande, they've sent multiple guys
I don't know if they would spend that money on Yıldız, to be honest with you. We're talking like 88 mil. But you're saying ultimately that they will
summer,
not.
Though I think all these players are on. I think all these players are on the radar for the summer. And I think signing a player in January doesn't help with that. And I think in this moment where you don't know what your formation is, you don't know exactly what your setups are. We know we need a center back. I don't think Gahey will happen now because I think Palace is going to hold strong and won't let him go. I really hope that they find a way to make that move happen, but they have to sign a center back. And I don't care if it's a makeshift one. I don't care if it's a guy on loan. I've saw the loan strikers. I don't see Liverpool in this iteration, to Paul's point, signing a player on loan unless they absolutely think it's a win-win for both sides. and they can get out from under it and just build on it. It's not our style to sign a player on loan. So
yeah, I don't see like a loan thing. Divock, we were talking about Divock the other day. Bringing Divock back on a free over there. But bring his beard belly over here. Goda was big on it. So we were mocking it with Gary.
Fitness issues. Let's bring in Divock.
I think it's one of those Divock kind of a deal. But let's remember him with his thinner self than bring him back. But yeah, I do agree. I think it's more about the biggest need obviously is center back, though. You gotta bring a body in, and would that be a temporary body that you might think like, hey, we're not gonna lose money on this guy, we'll sell him again for a bit more, even if it is like a Minamino type signing or like an Ando type signing or something like that. We might do that. I do want to get to the Leeds game though, because I do want to compare it to last week. Bickler, Cersei says he's never seen Bickler so disgusted.
He clearly doesn't watch that often.
Yeah, well, not to mention, you should stick around for the post-match show. We want to see Bickler disgusted. But once the lights turn off, you really see Bickler come out. Bickler, how do you think the way the first game unfolded affects the second one over here?
What are we talking about? Champions League?
The Leeds game. Sorry.
Oh, the Leeds game?
You laughed so hard your headpiece fell off.
Yeah.
Like, how do you think, like, the way that game unfolded? And obviously, I mean, honestly, man, it looked like it was going to be another comfortable slot win until Konate is like, let me slide at an angle over here in the box and see what comes out of this. But then obviously we know the rest. It's a draw, 3-3. How do you think it impacts this game, which is at home, so it'll totally be different in that sense? But what aspects will be similar, or what will we do differently? Because Jack says he is genuinely terrified in the chats of this game.
Well, listen, Leeds has been this team for I feel like the last 5 or 6 years, even under previous managers. Remember, they were just so, when they had that run of Americanism run through it in both player and manager, they were just as helter-skelter. I feel like they're a little bit like when you play a team that's inferior from a quality standpoint, but they cause enough chaos that it causes your level to drop down into it. I feel like that's what Leeds is really good at doing. They're good at sort of suckering you down into the gutter, with them, and they just tend to create chaos. Speaking of fitness issues, I can only say that Calvert-Lewin has got to be on fire right now just because he doesn't play but once every 3 years. But I think that's got to be a primary focus is slowing that down because that's what's rolling for Leeds right now. Is just he's getting in the box and scoring pretty much at will right now. And I don't know if there's anything that you do differently as a side because of a result you got against them previously. I think you have to be disciplined and play within yourself because that's how you win these matches and get 3 points off Leeds. Playing your game, not allowing them to suck you into their chaos, and just being really disciplined. We beat ourselves that match. And that's the way that we've consistently dropped points in second halves this year is by beating ourselves. If we play disciplined football and we don't make stupid mistakes and we're creative but safe as well. I think there's a fine line between that. I think you can be creative and safe. I think that we tend to be either side of that. We either tend to be dangerously creative and we seed numbers in the midfield and get sucked up and get hit on the counter, or we play too safe and we don't take chances when the chances are there. And I think if we could find that balance and play within ourselves and not make those mistakes, it'll be fine. I don't think it has anything to do with the last match. I don't think that comes into play at all for me.
See, in the sense that, I know what Jack is saying. They are definitely a lot more of a threat than Wolves, right? You mentioned Calvert. I think they're pace and stuff is a big bit of a threat on the counter. If it's a similar game, let's say to the Wolves game where we dominate possession and stuff, I would think, Gally, that we will look at that and say, hey, whatever we did was clearly working until we kind of hurt ourselves. Plus, I think Leeds can create that chaos a lot easier at home than they can at Anfield.
100%. And we played into that chaos. We allowed that chaos.
We started the chaos.
We started the chaos with the Konate ridiculous challenge on a guy literally who was standing by the advertising boards, and he decided to kick him in the ankle as he was walking out of bounds with the ball and give up a penalty. That also took a 4.5-minute VAR review just to have it happen. So like they didn't even want to give it in real time. The other thing that can't be overlooked is how important their back three has been to everything good that they do from an attacking standpoint and their chaos that they create. And Rodon has been the linchpin of that. And he went off injured against Sunderland. And it looks like Rodon won't be available for the Liverpool match. So that's a huge loss. They went to a back four against Sunderland. I don't think they'll play a back four against us. If anything, for me, one of the positives I took out of this match against Wolves and for 70 minutes against Leeds was it's the best I thought we actually looked at creating opportunities against the back three in a long time. So if you want to sit back against Liverpool, you have to be able to play the ball wide. And I do think with Wirtz and Kirkez and now Frimpong being kind of inserted into the mix, you start to see us get a little bit more width and then creating opportunities for Ekitike. I'm not as worried about Leeds. I'm more worried about Fulham 4 days later, to be honest, because that's a road match. And we've shown so far a real insecurity when it comes to playing on the road. And I know we'll get to that match after the Leeds match, but this match here, to me, it really comes down to two things. Will you defend without mistakes? Because I think a side like Leeds at a place like Anfield requires you to make mistakes for them to have opportunities to exploit. And as good as Calvert-Lewin is, I think it's 6 in a row he scored, set a new record, both for his career, consecutive Premier League matches with a goal. And I think that's a Leeds record, which is pretty crazy when you're a club been around as long as Leeds, that Dominic Calvert-Lewin is setting EPL records on your behalf. Like, that would make me want to just go out and sign a striker just to get him off the record books. But he's done the job, and I think you have to be fair to him. I still think that midfield is weak. I think we can get at their midfield, and I think without Rodon, they will struggle at times if they're playing that back five to deal with the likes of Wirtz, Ekitike, and especially Szoboszlai. Like, I think Szoboszlai coming back will be the difference of this match, because I think we're going to see a guy and be like, shit, man, I forgot how well he ran. And then you're like, and I can't even believe how well he runs when he didn't have to play 130 minutes in 90 earlier.
Yeah, I think that he was sorely missed last game. You could kind of tell. And not only, him, what he does, but that's one less body on the bench, because if he was on the pitch, there'll be another person to come off the bench kind of a deal. I mean, the thing, Bickler, Gally says like the away home. Honestly, I feel like this team is just as fragile at home. Maybe because the fans are, let's face it, when it was 2-1, when it becomes 2-1, we automatically say, here we go again. And I think in most cases, the fans already almost have that feeling like, oh, here we go again. We're leaking goals kind of a deal. So I almost feel like home and away does not make as much of a difference. My fear is, against any team we play, you can't be too aggressive when you are so shit. I think like Wild Spade was talking about like how shit we are at defending set pieces. You can't be aggressive because you don't want to give those set pieces away. Like once they're in your own half, you don't want that anywhere where the ball can be crossed into the box. And I really feel like it takes away our aggression. And on the flip side, when you cannot score from it, I think it enables a team like Leeds to be able to play more aggressive, because we cannot really convert the set piece opportunities we get. And I know this is why Slot always harps and gets a lot of criticism, but that's then again on Slot to kind of like reverse that trend where we are a lot more dangerous. Like, you look at Arsenal, we call them like set piece FC and stuff. You don't want to give set pieces against them. Whereas I don't think we strike the same kind of fear, even with Van Dijk and stuff in there.
Yeah, I think this goes back to Gally's original point about when we played them the first time and how we looked against their back three. And I think it seems like kind of crappy to use the word brave when you're talking about Leeds, but I think in a way we have to, because I think like Leeds is a team that you can get after them on the counter. And I think where this tends to play into what Leeds wants to do is if you start to be conservative and play a possession-based style and sit on the ball and allow Leeds to be the one that like initiates the counters, that's when you start playing into the brand of football that they want to play. So I'm not saying that we necessarily need to be helter-skelter up and down, but I do think that we need to have an emphasis on A, winning the ball in the final third of the pitch, and B, when we do win it in our own third, quickly countering. Get it to Ekitike, let him run.
Yeah.
Let him run. Let Frimpong take the far right, and you just do your thing. Like, I think if we attack out of defending with urgency, this is a lead side that can be had after. It just goes against what the side is doing right now, because it's sort of, I feel like it's sort of almost like trying to self-contain itself and preserve itself in these matches, instead of just like, we're used to under Jurgen just putting your foot down on the throttle. And I think that the side is scared to do that right now because of what it is defensively. And I can't blame it, but this is a team that in leads where we need to do that.
I think, honestly, even when you look at last year, I don't think we ever did that a lot. I feel like this team does not feel comfortable knowing that anything can happen any second in any set piece, that even 2-0, it used to be 2. Last season, go back and watch highlights of games last year. 2-0, it's like, turn off the lights, we're done over here, and it's a game. Whereas now, I don't think this team even feels like that, and they can move the ball around and, keep possession and kind of like close games out.
I don't disagree, but that's the league. The league is showing that 2-0 is no longer a safe scoreline. I think it's 48. No, it's as well. It's every team. City has given up 2 2-goal leads and either lost or dropped points in them. They gave up 4 goals after being up 4-1 and had to come back against Fulham to win the match. Like, I think the change of the set piece and the importance of the long throw and the direct play has led to these games getting crazy the last 15, 20 minutes. And now this holiday season and the injuries and the players and all the different rotations and the different maturations, we're seeing it across the board. The other thing that no one talks about is the game is no longer 90 minutes. It's 100+ minute game every game. So when you talk about guys getting knackered on 70, that used to be 80. And now those guys can't run at 70 minutes. And your sub has to come on and play 20 minutes plus 10 minutes of stoppage time. And we're still trying to
having to get more minutes overall.
And don't get me wrong, that's every team. That's not a Liverpool. I'm not trying to make excuses. But I do think this leads to trying to see out matches at 80 minutes. But you're not seeing out 10 minutes anymore in a couple minutes of stoppage time. You're seeing out the final 20 minutes of matches. And I think
that's partially because of how these other teams are approaching the games as well. Well, I almost feel like there is a little bit of too much of a scare going with some of these teams where it is not like, look at Wolves this weekend. And I know Wolves can't, if anybody could have, to be honest, Wolves could have come out and started the game like they started the second half. Because there's literally nothing to freaking lose. It's one thing to say, hey, we're happy with a point. Let's face it, Wolves needs 3 points. It doesn't matter if they're away at Anfield. They need 3 points. A point here, a point there is not going to get you very far. I feel like I know what you're saying, Gali. I just feel like the teams are not as brave as they should be. And the moment they do get brave, you almost see that, you could have done the shit all along. And then they score, and then, obviously, like you're saying, the set pieces and stuff like that, it becomes like a keep loading it into the box. And the teams, especially the teams who are playing in Europe, like the big boys who play more games because there's like in the Champions League and stuff, so they have more injuries. And I know they're deeper and all that kind of stuff, but still, at the end of the day, you don't have your bodies, and the bodies are a lot more tired. It does make it for a closer league, but I do feel like it would have been some of these teams are almost starting a bit too scared and then release the Hounds way too late into the game. But let's hope Leeds never gets to release the freaking Hounds, and it's a comfortable win for once where we can lean back, the boys can get some snacks over there, and it's a happy ending. Speaking of happy endings, Gally, prediction. see, Bickler got perched. He was falling asleep down there. He's like, wait, what?
Wait, what are we talking about?
Prediction is my wife comes home New Year's Eve and there will be 0 happy endings. That is the prediction of, and you can take that one to the bank. As for New Year's Day, I will say it is a happy ending with a 3-1 Liverpool victory. I am going to jump off the clean sheet because when I don't pick one, they get one. So I'm going to say it's a Timucin special 3-1, and we see some of the rotation, some of the kids. I just want to see Frimpong play again because we spent a lot of time talking about a lot of players tonight. We didn't talk about the one guy who made his actual full, basically Liverpool debut, and I think we saw a lot of the good things that he brings and why they wanted him, and I'm really excited to see where it goes, and I hope it continues against Leeds.
I just hope he stays healthy. I think that's going to be the biggest
100%.
thing with that guy. Let's hope we don't have another Gomez type of situation where when he's there, he's great kind of a thing. With him, I think it's just getting adjusted to the league, and let's face it, he's a tiny dude, but man, goddamn, he's fast. So that's another thing. Bickler, prediction for the weekend.
I'll go 3-2, and I'll say that scoreline flatters Leeds. I think it'll be a comfortable 3-2, and they'll get it sort of in garbage time. It'll be something where Van Dijk reminds us that he's allergic to closing anybody down, and then Calvert-Lewis he'll get that end of the goal towards the end of the game there.
Fuck off.
Some Gally went with the Timucin special. I was gonna double up, but then I'll do the reverse psychology. I'll go with the 3-0. For once, I think we get a comfortable win. Ryan is going with the Timucin special as well at 3-1. Notice we've kind of totally gone away from the slot special now these days because it does not seem as realistic. Because if it's 2-0 for too long, then it becomes 2-1. That's why I'm hoping it becomes 3-0 and it's the end of it becomes a sleepy finish with, like you're saying, probably with some rotation, but some disconnect that comes with that rotation. But as long as we get the 3 points, I mean, going back to the conversation we started it all with, I think we're all on board. At top 4 above United, so I can have a peaceful rival Bros tomorrow.
I was just going to say, we have 6 losses on the season on December 29th, and we are firmly in 4th place, 5 points off of 3rd. I really do think we wanted this season to be better than it is. But if we're realistic with what we've been through, losing Jota, making all these changes, to Paul's point, all of the unrest, the injuries we've had, the Mo Salah saga, and then getting to this point with literally 2 fit center backs, firmly in 4th place and in the Champions League qualifying rounds is actually not the worst thing in the world. You could easily find a world where there's 4 more points in this for us. A couple of those losses become draws, and 1 draw becomes a win, and we're literally 5 points off of Arsenal right now.
Especially when you look back for a month, like we were saying, a month and a half ago and stuff, you got to be happy with where we are at now. And I know everybody's gonna say the schedule, but we've been seeing the schedule, and maybe that's why the earlier was so bad, because it was a tougher schedule. So
gotta play the people in front of you.
Around. Yeah, I mean, you gotta be. I mean, these are points that sometimes we would have lost in the past, right? It's like what looked on paper like a guarantee. That's why I was really more afraid of the Wolves game than somehow I am of the Leeds game. Even though I agree with Jack, I think it's a much tougher opponent to us regularly, and as a team, they're better. I was more worried because those are games that we normally lose points on when it looks like a clean-cut case on paper over there. But I do hope. I do agree that there's a lot more to be positive about. Let's see what January brings. That's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes. But that will be it for us this week. Happy New Year to everybody. I would make the crappy joke about I'll see you guys next year, but I won't.
But you'll see them on Wednesday.
Tomorrow. Yeah. I will see you guys tomorrow night. Actually, we'll be live for Rival Bros with my brother who's the United fan. So do join us for that. These are the good days when we're above them. So it's a lot more comfortable doing those shows. And then obviously I'll be back Wednesday morning on New Year's Eve. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.